saw an ukulele there and I started playing Aloha Oi and she started singing it with me and then instantly we were like, sick.
I think when you're translating live animated film into a live action movie, there's just a ton of consideration and work that needs to go into that translation.
So many like OG references that I think people will definitely enjoy, as well as new things that are brought into it.
No. Control him. Hey, what are you doing?
I guess the first question to ask really is when, what are your memories of watching the original animated Lilo and Stitch for the first time? How much did it resonate with you when you first watched it?
I mean, I feel like it resonated with me so much so that I've told this a few times now, but it's still just as special. My first ever contest that I ever did, I was 1.5 years old, and it came out in 2002, and I ended up doing a contest at our little Kauai County Fair, and I dressed up as Lilo on stage. And I think I just I don't know, I think I just felt like her in that sort of way, a little bit like my own person in my own box. And then Nani was such a bad A that I was like, oh my God, I want to be like her.
And then playing her in this film, obviously, in some ways, this film, I guess, expands on what we see in the animated version. Was there anything in particular that you wanted to bring out more in this version of Nani that we see that perhaps wasn't there in the animated film?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the cool thing about bringing things to life like that in human form as far as the live action goes, is that we kind of get to go deeper than just like in animation as far as the fun and everything. We still have all of that stuff, but I think as far as, do we wait for sound or? No. Okay, great. Sorry. So I think like as far as going into the live action goes, I think I really wanted to bring in more of that familial bond, and I think that pressure and that sense of responsibility or kuleana that the caretaker Nani has as a 18-year-old girl, trying to take care of her sister, and I think that was really cool to explore.
Yeah, and did you get to explore, I guess, a sisterly bond on set with
Maya
as well?
Yeah,
how did that
and that was so easy. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were consistently just very tightly knit together, and it was instant right from the start of the audition.
What was your first meeting with her? Was it
at the chem reads?
Yeah, the chem reads,
Yeah, we had a chem read, and then we were sitting on a bed, and we were about to do the scene, and then saw an ukulele there, and I started playing Aloha Oi, and she started singing it with me, and then instantly we were like, sick. And then we cackled, and then on.
Yeah, and do you have any particular, because I guess she kind of grew up a bit while making the film as well, especially with the fact that there was a bit of a hiatus for the strikes and stuff. What was that like to, I guess, see her, not grow up just by a couple of years, but just over the process?
No, absolutely. I think the cool thing about this production was not only did we get to do it at home, but we had also a whole community of our home, and most to all of the cast and crew were from Hawaii. And I think we all kind of created a really huge sense of family on screen and off screen. And then, so we all were like crying when she came back with missing teeth and and was saying that she was 7 and now she's 8 and she's like 3 inches taller. I was like, can you stop? But no, it's been wonderful. She's a pro, and she'll tell me where to stand now. And I'm like, okay, you do you, man. Help me out.
Were there any kind of moments from the original animated film that you were especially glad were kind of recreated or made it into the live action as well? Any kind of little details in there that you
to see? Totally. I mean, there's so many like OG references that I think people will definitely enjoy, as well as new things that are brought into it. But I've always been a huge fan of the start where the social worker, who is Mrs. Keikoa this time around, comes around and is kind of like catching Nani at a really bad spot where Lilo's upset and like kicks her out, and we have this whole big chaotic scene in the front. And she's basically like, yikes, you need to get your crap together.
And then what was it like, I guess, acting with, CGI version of Stitch? What's kind of there when you're acting those scenes? What do you see, and how does that influence your performance?
Totally. I mean, it's an extremely interesting, different way of acting, because it's not just imagination, but it's like a full world that you're creating, and you're creating this whole thing And sometimes it was a maquette with a puppeteer, and Seth Hayes was a wonderful puppeteer. He went through a lot. And our acting coach also was a gray man, Sue, every now and then. We had an X, a tennis ball, a stuffy, so many different things. But we all were in it together to figure out how to make it real and come to life. And it worked out really well.
And are you looking forward to watching the film with audiences, I guess, or seeing people
Yeah.
respond to it? What are you most looking forward to about, seeing reactions?
I mean, I think I'm just excited for them to kind of relive the original, but actually be able to feel a lot more of that sense of family too. Laugh and cry and feel the nuance and the beauty of Disney, and hopefully want to come to Hawaii after that, and then, maybe love their family a little bit more. I don't know.
Obviously, with any live action reimagining of an animation, one of the first questions you've got to ask, I guess, is what can you do maybe in one medium that you can't do in another? So I guess for both of you, what were you most excited about perhaps expanding from the original version in this live action?
I think you're right. They're two different mediums. They are good at certain things and worse at others, and vice versa. And so I think when you're translating live animated film into a live action movie, there's just a ton of consideration and work that needs to go into that translation. One of the things that I can't say I ever quite figured out, but it was clear, it was like I wish I had a theory of everything and you could just put animation in one side and then it spits out the live action. But like, for example, things such as like Stitch's level of destruction and violence is like too strong a word, but like violence in general can play very funny in animation. You can imagine a very funny car wreck on a highway, but I would challenge any live action director to do that with real cars and real people because you're just worried. And so, we spent a lot of time trying to figure out, okay, well, how do we preserve the essential stitchiness of Stitch and the destruction and the fun of the movie while also, kind of navigating around those pitfalls. I think the opportunity that it affords is to really invest in the relationships and emotions. And I think with a live action movie, it affords you that opportunity. You can, we could really deep dive on like the Pelikai sisters and Lilo's emotional dynamic with Stitch and all those things.
And there's a couple of new characters brought into it as well. What was some of the thinking, I guess, behind some of these characters, and what do you think they bring to the story that perhaps wasn't in the animated version?
Yeah, one of our favorites is Tutu. We adore. And some of that was actually, it came from our screenwriter, Chris Bright, who is Hawaiian, and he sort of had this thought that, he's like, the way the community works in Hawaii, he's like, there would be support for two sisters like this who are all on their own. And really the issue then becomes more that like Nani's a person who's not willing to accept help right away in this movie, which is a little bit different than the animated movie, but we loved that there is a support system in Tutu and David sort of around. And then there's also Mrs. Kakoa too, which we were just trying to ground a little bit more of the social work element, which you can speak from a personal experience. So.
Yeah, my mom growing up it was and is a social worker, and so I saw a lot of the Pelikai sister type relationships and situations play out as a kid growing up, and they don't always have happy endings, but it felt really nice. It was a real honor to be able to give these sisters a happy ending.
Yeah. On the flip side of, I guess, being excited about things that you can change from the animation, was there anything that you were a bit apprehensive? Because, obviously fans of any Disney film can be quite protective over characters.
What are you talking about?
So what were the kind of aspects that you were maybe a little bit apprehensive about making changes?
I think a good way to go about adapting something as beloved as Lilo and Stitch is your team has to be really passionate and love the original. I think step 2 is hire as many people from the original who will work with you on it. And then if you can't find those people, find people who love the original to an unhealthy degree and, empower them to bring their love for the original into this movie, understanding that it's not going to be shot for shot and some things work better, like you're saying in live action, and go from there. But I think probably every decision that we made was bounced off of how much do we want to be faithful to this movie we love, and how much does it make more sense to do something different?
Yeah, and how about you?
Yeah, I think you have to bring something new to an audience when you do these movies, but then you sort of have to put every decision through the rigor of, is this better or is it just different? And if it's just different, don't do it. Don't change something just to change something that the fans will love. But if you find that there's something new you're bringing to the story and there's an added depth or there's a new direction you can take it in, I think that's what's really exciting about doing films like this.
In terms of the casting process, I want to ask about finding your Lilo, I guess. What was the kind of process like for casting, and how excited were you when you eventually made your choice?
I mean, Maya is like such a star. I think all of us felt that from like the moment we met her. It was also very clear to me that as opposed to, you see a lot of professional kids or kids with like stage manager moms and stuff like that. She was one of the only ones that was very clear that she was dragging her parents to these auditions, not the other way around. I think it clicked pretty quickly that she had the right amount of sort of, similarity to the character, vivid imagination, exuberance for performance, and eagerness to learn how to be a actor on set. And I think she's just like amazing in the film. I think she's a star.
Yeah, do you have any highlights from watching Maya on set and kind of just, watching her, I guess, disappear into the character?
Everything's such a highlight, but what's an interesting thing is, we shot a good portion of the movie and then we got shut down for the strike. And then we sort of came back and had to finish the movie. And again, as a parent of a 9 and a 5-year-old, you see how much kids change in even 6 months. So even during that time, there's certain scenes that I think are a little bit more innocent and vulnerable at the start, and certain scenes that are a bit more animated and colorful that we shot in the second half. So it's such an interesting blend because we actually sort of had to shoot the movie over 2 different periods. But she brings such humor, such life. She brings an energy to everybody on set, which is so fun. So, these movies are long and sort of grueling at times when you're doing these long shoots. Usually it's the adult should be taking the 6-year-old and getting her excited. It was sort of the other way around. But one thing that Dean did from the very get-go, it probably would have been easier to cast an older actor and then have them sort of try to play a bit younger. But from the beginning, we did look at actors who are 9 or 10 years old, but at a certain point it felt like there was an innocence and sort of a mischievousness and a purity to who Lilo is that you had to cast somebody young. So Maya was actually 5 years old when she sent her tapes in, and she was 6 years old when we cast her, and it sort of felt like that was the spirit of Lilo that we needed to capture for this movie.